Ross Ward is an Isle of Palms resident and a staunch conservative who's concerned about the future of House District 112, which covers Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, parts of Mount Pleasant, and Awendaw. Today, I talk one-on-one with him about why he's running for that particular district to be their state representative for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Ross Ward, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quinn. I just want to show you my koozies. Aren't those cool? We
You
got a
are,
little coffee.
yeah, you are Southern born, you are an American, you are a staunch conservative, and in fact, you are a Republican candidate for South Carolina House District 112, which covers obviously Sullivan's Island, the Isle of Palms, parts of Mount Pleasant, and Awendaw. You say on your website, obviously, you have old traditions and new opportunities. What are those old traditions that you want to meet with new opportunities in House District 112?
Well, one of the number one reasons I'm running, Quinn, is I go to Charleston School of Law, and every day I would go at lunchtime from the law school on Meeting Street to Verde, a local restaurant there. You eat there, and
Yes, I do.
and one day John C. Calhoun, the statue there in Marion Square Park, had just disappeared, and that really mobilized me. And I went to the protest there, and I didn't see my state representative. I didn't see Mr. Bustos, and I was very disappointed. And there was no way I could voice my concern. They had town council on during COVID on Zoom, so there was no way I could really get out there and say that I was upset about this. So that's why I'm running, and I'm here to preserve our history, preserve what's made South Carolina great, even the bad parts. You know, our history isn't all good. We need to take the good with the bad, and we cannot hide it. We need to learn from the bad parts. I'm happy we found the John C. Calhoun statue. We need to save the Francis Marion. We need to save a lot of these old traditions that are being removed and are being taken away from us. And the new opportunities, we're going to learn from these lessons, Quinn. We're not going to do the bad things again. But again, we can't forget that. We can never leave that behind.
Now, what good things about history, local history, and bad things about history that you're taking in and actually enhancing and making it better?
Right. So a lot of our, especially in my district, the Francis Marion or environmental park there,
In the National Forest.
the National Forest, we need to preserve that. Number one, and Larry Krabowski has played an integral role on that. As your state representative, I want to be the quarterback for town council and people like Larry Krabowski who have worked to save that history. That's something I want to do. I want to preserve our green space and our history. And that's one of the big things.
Now, are you referring to the Francis Marion National Forest or the Maritime Forest on Sullivan's Island?
Both.
Okay.
Francis Marion National Forest is one of the greatest things we have in this state, and to see it be taken away would be tragic for me.
Now, what particular bill would you put in place to protect these iconic locations?
Now I'm going to defer to Larry Krabowski there, and one of the things I think you get with me is I am young, I am new, I'm a clean slate, and I'm willing to go to my mentors like Larry Krabowski, like Judge Condon, and ask, how should we do this? And I will work with him to write legislation when I am in state legislature.
Now,
Yeah.
and to be fair, Larry Krabowski is a current attorney here in Charleston, and he's currently also running for the Charleston County Council. So,
Right. So I'm very excited about him. And one thing is, state representative is I want to keep issues local. We need to keep the power locally. The state representative should just be the quarterback. You come in. Go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Well, I know Larry's at a local level, but when you're dealing with national and state issues like this, are you going to be able to work with obviously State Senator Larry Grooms? How about United States Representative Nancy Mace?
Yeah, and then that's the job that you have as a politician. You have to work with other people to get things through committee. And I will work with Larry Grooms, Nancy Mace, and whoever comes to my door, and we have to work together.
Now, how will you go to their door and fix these issues?
Now, the number one thing is you got to have coffee. You got to have lunch. You got to sit down and smoke a cigar or have a beer with these people. And that's one thing my opponent is. He hasn't got a lot of his legislation through committee. Now, how do you do that? It starts with going and having coffee and seeing where do we have common ground, finding that common ground, and then working through that. And then boom.
Where is the common ground when it comes to the issues of House District 112?
Well, everyone who's living here understands that we have a problem with parking. We have a problem with tourists coming down, and we can't. I was driving on the island on Memorial Day. We were knocking doors in 100-degree heat. We couldn't actually get on the island where my house is. So the common ground is we all know we need to fix these infrastructure problems, right? We need to fix the parking. We need to make it more convenient for locals to drive, and that's the common ground there, Quintin.
And I know that you live on Palm Boulevard on the Isle of Palms. How long have you actually lived in the district?
I've been here 4 years, and I originally started in Georgia. I actually went out to Vegas for a while and worked for Donald J. Trump for Trump 2016. Played a little poker in the meantime. And then COVID came, and I was working for MGM as well as a casino host. They furloughed everybody. And so Charleston School of Law calls me, Dean Bell calls me, and she goes, Ross, would you like to come to Charleston School of Law? Having nothing to do at the time, I said, absolutely. So that's how I ended up back here. I went to Furman University for 5 years in Greenville, South Carolina. So this has been sort of a homecoming. We always came for vacations to Isle of Palms.
Cool.
And my sister went to College of Charleston. So I'm not a South Carolina native per se, but this feels like home now.
And obviously, you said you've been here for 4 years, Ross. Let me ask you, how did your relationship begin with the constituents of House District 112?
Well, I was here during COVID, and I moved back. And I'll tell you, being 29 years old and having worked for 5 years after college, moving in with your parents, being stuck in your parents' basement is no fun. But I got to meet a lot of the community during that time at Isle of Palms. I went to the Refuge. It was the only coffee shop open. We went to Windjammer. It was the only food and bar open. And I got to know a lot of the people. And I was very excited to have coffee with the mayor, Mayor Pounds. I saw you did the interview with him. I've just fallen in love with the community and what we're doing here. And I'm learning more and more every day. As I said, what you're getting with me is a guy who's going to listen to his mentors and his elders. And so if I'd love to talk to Jimmy Carroll and Mayor Pounds and everything that's going on with the Palm Republic.
Do you support that?
I think it's funny. I've looked into the issue. We do need to do something. It is impossible for locals to have parking here. You can't go to our local restaurants and bars. We need to find a solution, and I do think Jimmy Carroll has shined some light by doing this kind of funny, ridiculous thing, copying Key West with the Conquer Republic they did there. So do I support it? I think it's fun. And Mayor Pounds now has to respond, and Jimmy Carroll now gets his voice out here. And now this is the point I was making. We need to come to the table and find the solution because we're all on the same side here. This is about South Carolina. I'm Republican. I'm about South Carolina. It's not politics to me. This is a local House race. You know what it
Is the Palm Republic about politics, or is this about local issues?
It's local. It's local. I mean, Democrat or Republican, you want to be able to drive and park at the Isle of Palms. You want to be able to go to the Islander, which just opened,
Right.
and have it not take an hour and a half, and there's no parking for locals. One thing I'd propose: we need more golf cart parking, and this pertains to Sullivan's Island as well. And South Carolina residents should have preferred parking and always have access to the beach. Now, the tourists who are coming in, you got to pay extra for parking. You got to pay a little bit extra, and you don't have priority. The priority is locals. Locals first here.
Now, when the tourists and other out of towners come, how much money would the state and the city actually receive? Well, and the town of Sullivan's Island receive from all of this?
If you were to, the tourists are going to pay for parking, right? If you were to charge them a little bit more, we're going to bring in more revenue. We're going to have more to maintain the national parks, Moultrie, the beach, all of these things. Charge them a little bit more for parking, and give residents a break. We keep the town going in the winter. We keep it going when the tourists aren't here. Let's put the priorities on the locals, and let's charge a little bit more. We generate a little more tax revenue, and we can have a little more fun as residents.
What is the current tax revenue in House District 112?
That I cannot tell you. I will get back to you on that if you would like. I have great people, and I'll get back to you on that, Quintin.
Okay, let me ask you this, Ross. I know this is kind of like in hindsight, but it's still a relevant issue on the island. But
Right.
in your mind, do you think the 2015 plan should be amended to allow more areas for non-residents to park?
Tell me a little bit more about the plan. I'm not as well versed as I should be on the issue.
Yes, sir. I don't know if you remember in 2015, there was a plan developed, apparently with the Isle of Palms and the DOT to have, basically parking on the Isle of Palms, and there was some controversy behind that.
Okay, yeah, I remember this now.
Oh, you do remember now, okay. Now, let's say, for instance, if you were to, do some sort of legislation or have some sort of say-so in this, do you think the 2015 plan should be amended to allow more areas on the island, and really all of the beaches, for non-residents to park?
Okay, so Palm Boulevard, when you drive down,
Yeah.
they put too much parking there. There's way too much parking. Now, over towards the Windjammer on that side, all of those have moved to rental properties. What happened in the Isle of Palms is the residents have all moved out and they've all turned into vacation rentals. Palm Boulevard and towards Wild Dunes and in that intersection is still residents. So we need to stop the diagonal parking there. It needs to stop. We need to put the parking over on that side. And also, Mayor Pounds has also mentioned it. We need a bus to bus them to the beaches. You have to prioritize the local, the island. And that's not happening. And if we want all these properties not to go to rental properties, which is the movement, then we need to prioritize the local. So summarize, the Palm Boulevard, stop putting in those parking places, move them over towards the Windjammer on that side, and then we can also add a busing system for the tourists.
Now, Mr. Ross, I don't know if you are familiar now. Carter, the local bus system, actually has a beach reach shuttle that operates on the weekends from now until Labor Day. Would you want that to go year round?
6 months of the year, the high season. The high season makes sense. For the summer, when the tourists are here now in January, nobody's here. The residents are here. We can save a little money on that. But it makes sense, and it makes it easier for people to get in and out. And it makes it easier for tourists to go down to the Islander. It just let's give Dave a break. Let's make sure people can actually get there, and the tourists can park and we'll bus them over. It'd be great.
Now, how would you work with the South Carolina Department of Transportation to ensure that all residents of South Carolina, not only island residents, have the same rights and privileges of parking along those state-owned right-of-ways in all of our beach communities?
Yeah, so the DOT is a big part of being a state legislature is to work with these departments, and I'll play an integral role in working with them and just listening to them because they know a little bit more about me than this. So that's that would be my answer to that question. Figure
Now,
out what the Department of Transportation wants and what my constituents wants, and figure the solution.
what do they want now when it comes to having the same rights and privileges of parking along those state-owned right-of-ways in House District 112?
Right. So the public has access to the beach. When they shut down the beach in 2020, I'm a resident. It was inappropriate for them to have armed guards checking to see. You had to have a bill to see if you were a resident or not to get on the island. The beach belongs to everyone. No man owns the beach. No individual or government entity can say otherwise. So we have to provide access to every South Carolina resident because they pay taxes. I'll stand behind that and I'll work for that.
Now, speaking of which, in what way should the state of South Carolina promote and enhance access to the beaches and waterways and ensure that some parking on state roads, particularly in the areas that do not allow access to, restrooms and showers, will actually remain free to the public?
Right. So we need to ensure that they have that access,
Okay.
and give them parking and allow for that through legislation. We need to write legislation that creates that.
Okay, well, what House bill, Ross, would be ideal to ensure that excessive fines are not levied for minor parking infractions on public roadways?
Yeah, so the fines that they're levying out here on Isle of Palms compared to downtown, I think it's 3x of what I get when I leave my car somewhere downtown. It's inappropriate. It's punishing people for going to the beach. I would pass legislation that reduces those fines and makes it reasonable for you to park somewhere that maybe you shouldn't on the beach because you're trying to get your family out to have a nice day on the beach. So I'd work with the legislature to pass that bill.
And what type of support would you get from, the state Senate?
I think Chip Kempson would be behind.
Chip Kempson.
Chip Kempson would be behind allowing people to use the beach and park somewhere that maybe they shouldn't, without paying $150 for parking in the wrong spot while they're taking their 4 or 5 kids out for the beach, and they live here. This is our beach. This is a South Carolina beach. Stop punishing people for having a good time on our beaches. And also, I want to throw in there.
Yes, sir.
Why are there such big fines for having alcohol on the beach? People are going out there to have a good time, especially our residents, after a long week's work, and we have roaming patrols making sure you are not drinking on the beach. We can put it in solo cups, put it in a koozie, no glass on the beach because we need to conserve the environment and not have the poor sea turtles, I love sea turtles, be choked. However, let people have a good time on the beach. If they want to drink alcohol, power to them. Power to the people.
Ross, let me ask you, speaking of which, you mentioned this earlier, how would you, if elected, limit the issuance of golf cart park only spaces on our state road rights of way, and ensure that for any such parking authorized or allowed, non-residents will receive reciprocal rights to park for parking vehicles?
See, this is where we're going to go sideways here. I think we should have more golf cart parking. We need to prioritize the resident and make it easier for them to park. So I would put in more golf cart parking. That way we encourage Ubers. We encourage the tourists to fly down instead of driving. Another thing we need to do, we need to build the infrastructure. We need to build the airport. One thing I did at Charleston School of Law is I resurrected the Aviation Law Society. And that was sort of a ploy to bring in Tommy Preston.
Okay.
And I got Tommy Preston to come from Boeing. One thing I'll do as your state representative, when I am elected, is I will build this airport and encourage tourists to fly down, take Ubers, take other transportation, build up the bus system, build up the infrastructure. That way, our roads. That's the easiest way to solve the road issue is have less cars on the road.
Now,
It's going to be. Go ahead.
oh, no worries, Mr. Ross. I know because I'm always over there all the time in North Mount Pleasant working, but there is Mount Pleasant Regional Airport. Is that not sufficient?
It's great that we have Mount Pleasant Airport. However, we need to build Charleston is becoming the city, and we need to build the international routes. It needs to be easier to fly. We can use Mount Pleasant if you're flying from Charlotte, if you're flying from Greenville, or Atlanta, where I'm originally from. My mom flies over into the Mount Pleasant Airport. As far as these people coming from New York or Connecticut or Delaware or California, which is a lot of license plates I'm starting to see, let's build the Charleston International Airport and grow our community in that fashion. And also, another thing I've noticed, Boeing doesn't hire our people. They don't hire COC grads. They don't hire USC grads. They ship people in from out of state and other countries, and they need to start hiring within South Carolina. And that's partly on us. We need to build the talent pool. The talent pool is not good. And one thing, if I'm your state representative, I'm going to be at everything. I've shown up to everything. I've knocked every door. I'm going to go just be a champion for South Carolina. That's really why I'm doing this, is to have a platform. Go ahead. Go ahead, quick.
I want to go back to that airport. I want to go back to that airport.
All right, let's stay there.
Where would you build this airport in House District 112?
Well, we have the Charleston International Airport. That is, the map is very funny. It is in my district, and we need to work on that. There's a lot that we can do there. As a conservative, you're supposed to not spend a bunch of money. That's something we need to invest in.
Where would you get the money from?
Well, there's a lot of bureaucracy and jobs that need to go, and one of the great things about South Carolina is our state house doesn't get paid that much. I'm not doing this for the money, Quintin. It's $10,000. That's a great thing. But there's a lot of bureaucracy and jobs in the government that simply we don't need. There's a lot of spending, and I can give you specifics at another time with some of these bills that's just built in where people are giving pork. And we need to cut that. Let's cut this whole politicians patting themselves on the back and giving wink wink money under the table. That's what I want to get in there and do and identify. And then we can send money to the airport. We can build back our roads. We need better roads.
Mr. Ross, I understand that the Charleston International Airport is in a different district than 112. But let me ask you, have you actually spoken with the constituents of 112 to see if they're actually in favor of this new airport?
No new airport. We're going to build the Charleston International Airport up.
Isn't that one not sufficient to you?
Well, yeah, that's sufficient. We're going to continue to build that. You know what? We're going to make it more international routes. We're going to work with that. We're not building a new airport, Quintin.
Okay. I understand. Well, let me ask you this. How would you support action to ensure that safe bicycle lanes are established on the roadways that lead to the beaches in your district, including the Isle of Palms connector?
Yeah, they just put in those two bicycle lanes. It's very dangerous with the way they restriped everything. There's been a lot of accidents, especially regarding bicycles. I mean, I'd almost propose a third lane, and then people. The bicycle issue it's not an easy issue to resolve. I'd almost propose a third lane there and more buffer zone for where cars can't hit them, because there are a lot of people driving maybe when they shouldn't be driving, and they are hitting the bicyclist and then causing hour-long waits. So more buffer zone. I'd I'd suggest a third lane. It would take up a lot of space, but we need to keep these bicyclists safe, and also by keeping them safe, we reduce the traffic problems.
Now, how many people actually travel across the Alpha Palms connector in their car every day?
I can't give you a concrete number, but I can tell you during the peak season, it's gotta be like 20,000 a day. And then people are trying to get home from work. The Islanders are trying to get home from work. We can't get home from work. It takes an hour and a half to get from downtown Charleston for me to my house on Palm there. So yeah, we're experiencing a lot of growth, and we need the tourism. My sister works in food and bev, but it needs to be controlled growth. We need to control the growth. And one of the things I'll do while I'm in there is figure a way out to control the massive growth we're seeing, and also limit the tourism. I mean, make it reasonable.
I know you like the tourists, but how do you keep them, and how do you bring them to Charleston with that limited tourism that you're indicating?
Right, and that's the ultimate question. We want the Windjammer and David the Islander, and next one over on Sullivan's Island and Post to have the tourism. Again, we're not building a new airport, Quintin. Let's build the Charleston International Airport up where people are flying in, where people are doing that, and we also need to work on the roads.
Now, I know they're building an access road to the airport as we speak here, but how many people actually fly into Charleston International Airport daily?
Not enough. Everybody's driving down. Everybody is driving from New York or Connecticut, and we're not seeing what we should be seeing. I know they're doing direct flights to Vegas, which is great, but people are flying out. Like the locals are flying out. People are not flying in, and that's a big problem that I talked to some of the guys at Boeing about. Is we need people flying in, not just flying out. It's great that locals have the option to take a quick flight to Vegas. That doesn't help reduce the traffic on our roads or the congestion. And our roads are also getting beat up, obviously. They're terrible roads.
Well, Ross, let me ask you this, because that's another question I wanted to ask you about in this particular interview. And that is, what is your 10-year plan that you would submit to the Department of Transportation to correct the backlog of obviously maintenance and actually fix roads in your district?
All right. We have to spend money on roads. It's embarrassing. We need the 10-year plan is, we're obviously going to have to find the money. You're going to have to reduce the pork spending. You're going to have to cut some bureaucratic jobs, some people in the government. We do not need you. You need to go back to the private sector. We take that money and we put it in the roads, because my mother lives in Highlands, North Carolina, and I drive down from the mountain to the beach when I go to see her. Right. I've had 3 flat tires, and as soon as I cross the North Carolina line, there's 3 potholes there that knock holes in my tires. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. I'm ashamed of our roads. We need to build the infrastructure. So my 10-year plan: cut spending and put money into the roads. And you're just going to have to pay taxes on the roads. Our gas tax. I mean, we have to. If it has to come from the gas tax, it has to come from the gas tax. We have to build the roads.
Well, how much money is South Carolina generating currently from this gas tax?
I'll have to get back to you on that. My dad was my dad owned Chevron, so I could tell you what it was in Georgia. It was higher in Georgia, the gas tax, and we had better roads. And one thing we could do, I'm not going to say 100% because I drove up to New Jersey a lot back when I was playing poker at Atlantic City. We could have more toll roads, and then that would punish more tourists than us. And we could have we could have a fast pass where it wouldn't punish the South Carolina residents that bad, and then we generate that from the toll roads instead of from our residents. It's an idea. I'm not going to say 100% we should put in these toll roads because it obviously slows things down, but we have to find money to pay for these roads at some point.
Now, how much money would that from those toll roads generate to help fund these roads?
Yeah, a significant amount of money. I can't give you an exact figure, but as much traffic as we are seeing from, say, people driving down from New York to Isle of Palms, we'd make a pretty penny right there.
Wow.
And,
yeah, and I know that you talked about those port projects. What are the port projects right now in 112 that you would eliminate if you were to be elected?
Yeah, we should do a follow-up interview, and I'll point out. There's a few things I watched your. I did a little homework. I watched your interview with Jackie. Yeah. I got a few House bills that I do want to talk about if you have time, but I can't identify the exact port that's in there. But there are definitely some things I would love to email you about, and you could talk about them at a later date.
And I know Uber, no, not Uber. Yeah, I'm just Zoom is telling me I have 2 minutes left, but let me ask you this. Yeah, the 40-minute time limit now with the new system.
I just got started, Quintin. We got to go.
Yeah, it says running out of time. This meeting will end in 2 minutes. But let me ask you this: what is the current state budget?
Let's see. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, but we don't have enough money for our roads and our infrastructure. I'm just going to tell you that.
Well, how much money does 112 need right now?
I mean, we need a state representative who's going to go in there and fight for funds. That's what we need, and I'll do that. I'm a fighter. I played rugby. We need. How much do we need? An exact figure? We need more money. We need more money to handle the influx of people coming down, and our infrastructure. It's so. We need a lot more.
and what are those last figures of the population for House District 112? You see a lot of people moving down. What are the last figures of population for your district?
Yeah, I actually have this up. I know we got 2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Sullivan's Island has 1,911 people. It's really small, but those are residents. We need to take care of them. Awendaw, or am I pronouncing that?
Awendaw.
Awendaw. I need to learn that. That's my district. 1,384 people. 1,384 people. Isle of Palms, 4,347. That's my people.
Yeah. and what are those growth projections? What are the growth projections in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think I believe we went 1.5x since the last 2 years, and I would imagine it's going to be times 2 if we don't control it. People are moving down. People love South Carolina. It's just going to get more crazy and crazy, and we need to find a way to handle this because people love South Carolina. People love Mount Pleasant. Don't you love living here?
Yes, it's a great place here. It really is. Love it here. Ross Ward, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey, thank you, Quintin. I'd love to come back on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I'll have more concrete answers for you.